Today I want to talk about two teenagers that set the entire city of Gatlinburg, Tennessee on fire.
Now to those Tennessee wildfires. Two teens are now accused of starting the deadly blaze that killed 14 and forced thousands of evacuations.
You know, I was a fireman for 31 years and I've never seen anything of this magnitude.
This is the largest fire in the last 100 years of the state of Tennessee.
It was one of our top stories of 2016. And, in fact, in all of Tennessee history.
Good morning, Robin. These are very serious charges, the highest level of arson, meaning prosecutors believe these two young people started these fires with intent to do damage.
Consuming decades of memories.
This is our life here. These are our mountains. God gave them to us to use and to enjoy.
By the night of November 28th, it became unstoppable and took everyone by surprise.
I mean, I've seen houses like this, but I mean, not whole neighborhoods.
This morning, two juveniles in custody, accused of deliberately starting the fires that killed 14 people in eastern Tennessee.
Hit the gas! Hit the gas! It's too hot in here. Don't worry about the lines.
Tried to talk to her and she didn't say nothing.
May died at the hospital after suffering a heart attack from all the smoke.
Justin Belton and his father frantically tried to escape.
Dad, this is insane.
I know. We don't want to get trapped in here.
You can hear the panic in Justin's voice as he navigates his car down a narrow mountain trail.
You can't see, just go easy now. Easy.
Dad, the car is heating up. It's going to explode.
We're all right.
Oh, Jesus, God, help us.
It was like driving into hell.
Hey guys, it's Tiffany. Welcome back to my channel. I hope y'all have had a good week. Mine has been crazy, stressful, and I just want to tell y'all, if you got anything negative, toxic in your life, get it out. It's not important. There's more important things to worry about, like your family and just people you surround yourself with, and just live your life to the fullest, be at peace, and have a great mindset. That's all I gotta say. Today I want to talk about two teenagers that set the entire city of Gatlinburg, Tennessee on fire in November of 2016. On November 23rd of 2016, firefighters saw an area where there was like smoke. It was real small at this time. It was approximately 1.5 acres big, like area that it was covering. This area was called the Chimney Tops. This was about 5.5 miles outside of the main city of Gatlinburg. And firefighters at this time thought that it was easily contained. They thought that it wouldn't spread, but they were in for it at this time. So they thought that the fire was far enough from the city to not cause any damage. They thought they'd be able to stop it. At this time, the superintendent had the firefighters hike up to the mountain where this fire currently was, that was covering 1.5 acres. They wanted to kind of like size it up and see exactly what they were in for. They wanted to see if it could possibly spread and just see what damage it had already done. They said as the darkness approached that night that the fire was starting to spread. It was going across like some rocks and it was on the side of the mountain at this time. Like I said, they thought it wasn't going to spread. They thought they had it under control. This area where this was is beyond where hikers even usually go. At this time, they didn't even think that anybody had set this fire. They thought it was maybe just like a wildfire going on that might have been kind of getting out of control. The main person had been fighting wildland fires for over 25 years, and even he was getting kind of nervous that it might spread, that it might get further and cause even more damage. He said with the rocky terrain and the darkness this night that the hikers and firefighters that were there couldn't even do anything. So they planned to stop, the search, looking at the fire. They stopped that and then they planned to go back the next morning. The next morning, the incident commander returned back with the whole team of firefighters. At this time, the fire was consuming like the thickness of the trees and they were starting to burn actively at this point. And I think that is when they really realized, like, okay, we might be in trouble. After they saw this, they said that the terrain was inaccessible, it was too dangerous. They even thought that digging a fire line at this point wouldn't even help the fire, and that was the method they used to stop fires. So for them to think it's so far gone that that wouldn't even help, which is usually what's done to stop fires, that was like major for them. They also knew that helicopters dropping water wouldn't do anything at this point because the fire was spreading so fast and it was getting so big that the buckets on these helicopters, it doesn't stop a fire, it just slows it down. And they had no time to try to slow this down because it was just getting so bad and it was starting to cover even more and more acres at this point. On November 24th, 2016, which was the next day, the whole team, multiple cities, the firefighters are coming to try to help. They're trying to think of strategies to try to slow down this fire and just to get it to stop because it's getting worse and worse. So on November 25th, more people were coming together. They were trying to put their heads together. They pretty much thought like, hey, if we do dig a fire line, then it might help something. But they just, like I said, they had no idea if this would help at all. At this point, we're just trying to do things, just anything to try to stop it. On November 26th, the fire is now covering 6 acres, and that is major because the weather at this time was humid, it was dry, and that's like a recipe for disaster when it comes to fires in the forest and really anywhere because it's going to spread and spread just even further. It's going to get harder to contain, and it's just going to be a disaster.
This is fuel. Everywhere around us is fuel. Everything, trees, grass, shrubs. Basically, Gatlinburg is the classic example of what we call the wildland-urban interface, which is pretty much one of the most dangerous places you could actually live or own a home. In fact, there are minimal roads into and out of Gatlinburg, as we've seen, and even then the roads are small, narrow, windy, difficult to get around.
They said at this time that their analysis, something that they were doing to watch the fire, modeled like growth from the fire. It showed that the fire would continue to creep down the hillside and the mountain and that it would eventually get to the containment boundaries, and that was what they had set up to try to stop it, but they're worried about it getting into the city of Gatlinburg now. On November 27th, 2016, the fire is now covering so much area. It's covering 30 acres at this point, and that is insane. The humidity dropped this day. The National Weather Service said it was, going to be high winds this day. So like I said, this is even worse now because it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep getting bigger. The weather is warm. There's no rain. And at this point, helicopter buckets, dropping the water can't do anything. It has already crept across containment boundaries, and they feel like it's a loss at this point. However, they decided to order 3 large helicopters for this. They thought maybe some type of water would be better than nothing because, like I said, there was no rain, there was nothing putting this fire out. So they are just trying to stop it. They're trying to slow it down at least because it's now getting into the city of Gatlinburg. They spent the entire afternoon using these helicopters to dump the water on the hottest sections of the fire, but it honestly didn't help anything. At the end of this day, an order was placed to have pretty much all firefighters in the entire area to come help fight these fires. On November 28th, the next day, stronger winds are blowing. It's causing like embers to float and go to other sections, which is causing smaller fires. Like I said, the head of this, he said he has fought fires for over 25 years. He said he has never seen anything like that before. He's never seen a fire engulfing like over 30 acres and then little other fires going all over the place and making it even harder to contain all the fires. At this point, the fire is still 4.5 miles from Gatlinburg, but with a fire growing like this and spreading like this, it's not going to be long before it gets to the main city. At this time, they are contacting like air resources. They're getting even more firefighters and crews and just anybody willing to come help and volunteer to fight these fires. But it's awful because at this point, they couldn't even track the fire anymore because of the smoke. The smoke was filling up the entire city. There's videos of people in the main city of Gatlinburg, like around the Space Needle, and it's just a foggy haze just in the entire city, and you can't see anything. There's people with masks on, like that have to be in the area, unfortunately, but people that live there and things like that, and they just had no choice but to be exposed to this at this time. The Gatlinburg Fire Department starts to use bulldozers to build fire lines to try to do whatever they can to stop this fire. So the firefighters are now going door to door with voluntary evacuations, telling people they need to pretty much leave because they don't know if they'll be able to stop this fire. This eventually turns into a mandatory evacuation, but right now it's voluntary just because they don't know exactly what the future holds.
They're asking people over at the top of Airport Road to voluntarily evacuate. Well, that term I wasn't used to, and I said, what the heck is voluntary evacuate? You either evacuate or you don't. Next thing I heard her scream, come quick. All back was glass windows. And I could see the fire coming up the hill. Fires on both sides. Houses are burning on both sides. Cars are burning on both sides. I couldn't see the road. There was so much smoke. I could see the yellow line. We're going to make it now. And I looked over and she'd slumped down. Well, there wasn't any way I could stop. I reached over and touched her, excuse me, on her head, and it was just, there was no resistance. It was just loose. I hollered at her, never said a word.
Jimmy kept a vigil by May's bedside.
We were both there, my two sons and me, when she died, which was a few minutes after midnight, which was my birthday.
Over 200 firefighters in the area are here in Gatlinburg now helping with this fire. Winds are now 87 miles per hour. More fires are starting to ignite throughout the outskirts of Gatlinburg, and it's just like kind of a waiting game now. Around 7 p.m., they start now going around to do mandatory evacuations. Their main concerns were, getting people out and just concerned about people's safeties. Their main concerns were just about people and their safety. They wanted people to get whatever belongings they needed and pretty much just wanted them to stay safe and to get out of the area. However, it gets to the point where trees are starting to fall, like huge trees. They start blocking the roads.
Hit the gas! Hit the gas! It's too hot in here. Don't worry about the lines.
People trying to leave their homes can't leave. Their homes are being destroyed. This ends up killing 14 people and it injures hundreds of people. These fires ended up costing the city of Gatlinburg over $2 billion. People lost homes. Over 2,500 homes were lost in these fires. A lot of these were cabins. A lot of these were, like vacation homes that people, Airbnbs, things like that, just way up in the mountains. Foundations only left of homes, like concrete foundations, just homes totally ruined, animals killed, people stuck in these fires that couldn't cross because these trees were just totally blocking the roads. 2 teenagers were the cause of these fires. They were 15 and 17 years old. Their names really aren't anywhere, pretty much because they're juveniles.
This morning, 2 juveniles in custody, accused of deliberately starting the fires that killed 14 people in eastern Tennessee.
We are pleased to announce that 2 people have now been charged for their role in starting the fire.
And what blows my mind is the judge dismissed these charges on these 2 kids. They killed 14 people, hundreds injured, tons of homes lost, costed the city so much money, and their charges are dropped by the judge. This fire was the state's deadliest fire in over a century. Still to this day, there's never been a fire like this in Gatlinburg. And it's just so sad that these families don't get justice because the judge drops these charges. And I just don't understand how he could do that, considering the outcome of this. This went on for days. People were killed, injured, everything lost, and it's just so sad to me.
Word came over the weekend that Michael Reed's wife and 2 daughters died in the Gatlinburg fire.
The Northwest High School graduate and his son were unable to return to their home in the mountains. His wife, Constance, and 2 daughters, Chloe and Lily, were still there. Bruner says his wife hoped his wife and daughters made it out of the house and went further up the mountains to an area untouched by fire. But word came over the weekend that Reed's wife and daughters were confirmed dead.
So the whole area of Gatlinburg is really back to normal after the fires in 2016, but there's still like dead trees and things like that, piles of trees just laying around in the area. So driving through Gatlinburg today, looking at everything, it's all pretty much back to normal, but there's some areas that are still, the trees are black and just no leaves growing on them or anything like that. They're just pretty much dead, but I don't think they're going to worry about cutting any of those down. at the sky lift, they still have trees just laying down below like the chairs that people can see from, you know, the fires here in the area. It's crazy, you know, knowing the whole town was like engulfed in flames, just glowing orange, and just some of the footage from that was insane. The smoke, literally just smoke all over the Space Needle, just how high up all of it was, and it was just sad. And then just seeing everybody out just walking around, it's literally just back to normal. I bet a lot of people don't even know about the fires that happened here in 2016. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. My email is in my description, which you can reach me, you know, about cases you might want me to look into and cover. And don't forget about my Patreon. That's also in my description. For as low as $5 a month, you can have your name in my video. I do some pretty cool stuff on there, live streams. So if you're interested in that, just check that out.
Gatlinburg couldn't have been prevented, but there could have been a better awareness of the danger that wildfire poses in Gatlinburg. Because every area that is wooded, that's forested, has at some point burned in the past. What people need to understand is that wildfire has a long history here in the Southeast. Because we have forests, we have trees, we have all the right ingredients for wildfires to occur here. But I hope that this fire and the others that have occurred recently here in the Southeast bring a new awareness to the people that live and work here, to the land managers, to the Park Service, Forest Service, that fire is actually common here.
Dad, the car is heating up. It's going to explode. Oh, Jesus, God, help us.